All right, everybody. Today's guest, Ruben Rojas, is here today with me on the Define Success podcast. He is an extremely talented artist who uses his skill to create masterful murals across the world to uplift communities, ignite creativity, and inspire others to see the world through the lens of love. His work can be found in Miami, New York, Paris, and many other locations in between. Ruben also hosts the Live Through Love podcast, where he interviews amazing guests such as Lewis Howes to show everyone to bring more love into their life. He is here with me today to talk about his story, his journey, how we can live a life with more happiness and love. Ruben, so happy to have you here. Welcome to Define Success.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, can you start us off? Obviously, we see your work on social media today with your podcast, your art. How did you get to where you are today with your amount of success in your profession?
You want the short version or the long version?
Let's do the long version.
I think we're the sum of everything, right? From birth to all the schooling we do, our parenting, the sports we play, the things we study. And it doesn't necessarily mean that's what we end up being in life. So I've been an artist my whole life, but for the most part, as a first generation American, my parents are immigrants. It's like go to school, get the degree, get the
Mm-hmm.
good job, get the safe career path, and go out there and do the thing. And they weren't wrong with that, but the world was different also when I was growing up, right? Social media wasn't what it is now at
Mm-hmm.
all,
Yeah.
right? We had TV and the news, and you get the newspaper and you read it. Now it's like, ooh, I can get everything on my phone. So, I played sports my entire life. I took a ton of schooling. I went to school to be a doctor. I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon. That led me to real estate. Then I did almost a decade of real estate, made a lot of money, lost a lot of money. Went bankrupt. You learn the school of life. You learn success and failing and everything in between. That led me to financial planning and advising, and I learned everything about investing and planning for tomorrow and retirement and insurance and all those things. But I was miserable. I hated my life 5 years into that. There's more to unpack in there you can ask, but I woke up one day and I'm like, I hate this. I can't get out of bed. I'm depressed. This isn't what I'm meant to do or meant to be. I don't care how much money I'm making or how successful I am at it. I am miserable. I hate my life. And it all comes down to, again, I've always been an artist. I was the kid taking notes in class with drawings all around my notes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I had the book covers with the names and the graphics, and I excelled in art classes. I excelled in science too, so I'm like, I was good at science, so let me go be a doctor. And one day I finally just painted my first mural, after being depressed and going and doing some work on myself and figuring things out. That led me to painting a mural because a buddy saw me sketching to design the hoodie for our graduating class of this group thing we did. And he's like, that needs to be a mural. That needs to go on a wall.
Yeah.
That led to the first mural. And then for the next 5 years, I'm like, what does this world of an artist look like? And I've always been self-employed. When I was a personal trainer, when I was doing real estate, when I was in finance, I was never worked for anyone, never had a paycheck. It was always commission-based, sales-based, maybe a small base salary, but it was always basically self-employed. So I had to rely on myself. And what does the world of being an artist look like? How do I turn it into a viable business? How do I feed and support a family? I wasn't married or have kids or any of that like I do now at the time, but I was thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we're not thinking about the future, not in the sense of like, oh, it's forever from now, but more in the what can our lives look like from what we're doing today, and what does that future look like in that capacity. So we're foreshadowing it because I think we should focus on the present, but realizing that everything in my past made me the successful artist that I am today. The real estate lessons, the finance lessons, studying medicine. Not a lot of artists get that opportunity to
Right.
do all these things and work in all these spaces and be able to apply it to a business. So that's the long-winded way of saying what has led me to being a successful artist today. It's this entire journey of everything I did in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Being in real estate help, being in finance help, dealing with other entrepreneurs and self-employed people and all their problems, realizing, hey, being an artist is a business.
Yeah.
It is a lifestyle. It is something you can scale. And we're blessed to have a lot more tools now than back in the day to share it, showcase it, and talk about it. To
Hmm.
go on podcasts like this to share our successes and our failures. And the last thing I would add to that is just a failure is only a failure if you don't learn from it, because a failure is one step towards success.
Yep, absolutely. I love that. And one thing I want to pull out is when you talk about thinking about the future. So you're talking about being very depressed and upset with your current situation. You weren't happy with what you were doing in life and you wanted to make a change. I feel like a lot of people go through that at some point in their life. Maybe they're going through it right now, but they don't look too much in the future. They're just looking towards the next weekend to take some time off work and they're back to the same cycle. They're not looking at 5, 10 years down the road of, I need to get out of this career. I want to start a family. I want to start a business around my passion, something along those lines. Why or how did you get rid of that, stigma of, I'm just going to put my head down, work and deal with it, not being happy, and actually follow your passion and remove that unhappiness from your life?
Good question. I think a lot, I mean, it's around self awareness. If you start having the self awareness and realization that you can do something to change this, because it's not going to, no one's going to change it for you. You have to
Mm-hmm.
change it. And then realize we look ahead to see either a potential problem or what it looks like, trying not to get stuck. You know, maybe if I had two kids and a wife at the time and then going through this, it'd be much more hesitant, right? I have to take more caution. It's a responsibility. So I mean, I've always ran off cliffs and put the parachute on my way down. So it's be careful with how you're wired,
Mm-hmm.
but start realizing it's the double-edged sword. But what's the larger poison pill? 20 years from now, you stick to doing what you're doing. And by that point, you resent everything. You hate everything. You're walking around angry and pissed off. Might lead to a divorce, might lead to your kids hating you, might lead to never really get promoted at work because you're not doing your best to get to the next level. And eventually, maybe you're 55 and get laid off. And I know that sounds very doom and gloom, but it's the reality. Being a financial advisor for almost a decade, I saw these things played out time and time again with other families and business owners and relationships and couples. So part of that realization helped me realize this. And I think, do you want to make the change at 70, which is much harder, right? We're more
Mm-hmm.
calcified. Or do you want to make the change now when we're more nimble and able to figure things out? Because living for the weekend is not the jam.
Yeah,
Because weekends
agreed.
fly like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's Friday, woo, then it's Saturday. Let's say you drink and escape and get drunk. We all have those good times. And all of a sudden it's Sunday, you're like, oh
Back to
man,
work.
it's Monday again. To me, every day is the same. I say I don't, this cliche, but I don't work a day in my life. I work my face off. It's just, I love what I do. And it's not work. I have a mission. I have a vision. I'm trying to take something to another level
Mm-hmm.
and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
saying it's not work. It's just not the same with me clocking in when I was putting on that suit and tie going through the motions of building a financial practice. Now, if you love that, it's a good business. It does good stuff for people. I'm not saying that the business was bad. It's just I wasn't fulfilled and I wasn't finding value.
Right. Yeah. There's a big difference there. Like you being able to say that you don't work a day in your life, as cliche as it may sound, it's true because you are amazing at what you do. And there's a big difference. Like if I'm not artistic at all. If I said I want to be an artist and I want to do what you do, it would take a lot of time, a lot of energy. And I would get super frustrated because I don't have the skills right now. And it'd take a lot of work to get to that level. Right. For you, you're born with some level of talent and then you just kept building it from there. And now there's years and years of hard work and effort put into your craft of what made you what you are today. Along that journey, you talk about doodling in school and making, notes and stuff. Um, when you are, let's say, middle school, high school, even out of college, and you're practicing your art, did it ever seem like a chore or anything like that? Or was this something that was just always your passion?
It was always the passion. It's always what I did. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was, I would catch myself recreating comic book covers and I drew differently back then, be drawing Wolverine and my favorite Marvel heroes and different things like that. Obviously the whole life and evolution of life distilled it down to like what you see now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of human psychology and human behavior and all of that as well. But it was always a passion. Do I have the same passion to execute what I drew when I was little? No.
Hmm.
No, I'm not going to sit there and draw Wolverine anymore. Not to discount anything about that. It's just I don't draw that way. That's not how I express
Yeah.
myself. A lot of what I'm doing is really trying to tap into human emotion. It's we operate out of love, we operate out of fear. Art is
Hmm.
so subjective. So I use a lot of language and typography because I want to walk you as close to the finish line as possible.
Mm.
I'll even open the door for you. You've got to walk through it. You've got to go through what it makes you feel and what it makes you express, and hopefully it starts aligning with the mission of I'm inviting you to choose love and see the world through the lens of love and respond instead of react.
Hmm. Yeah, this is good. Like your art relates to love. You have the merchandise of love. You have your podcast related to love. Where did this branding come from? Why was it that you want to pursue a mission relating to love?
You know, there's so many ways I look at this to unpack it and go back, but in this leadership course that I did, there was an exercise where you get up in front of the room and you declare what you are. And without giving stuff away, I stood up and I said, I am love.
Mm.
That was a moment. And when, most of my doodling was like graffiti and tagging back in the day. So shorter words, 5 letters, 4 letters. So like love, fear, brave, ticker, different things, time. These are words I used a lot. And time just made me realize, and the world made me realize, like we operate out of love, we operate out of fear. We as humans love to complicate everything.
Yeah.
It's an omen, it's a sign, Mercury's in retrograde, you name it. There's just a million and one things. And I'm not discounting anyone's anything. It's just when we use it as an excuse, that's a problem. So when I'm anxious and I'm feeling anxiety, it's a lack of love. I'm more in fear,
Hmm.
and when I'm feeling very happy or excited or grateful, it's an abundance of love. I'm in love. So it's like there's all these different words around all these things, and it's love or it's fear. Let me keep it simple. Well, how am I reacting? Ooh, that reaction's coming from fear. They cut me off. I felt X, Y, Z.
Hmm.
Or someone smiled at me. I'm feeling love. So let's make it simple. I think, especially in the world now, we're adding more labels and more divisiveness with the pronouns and all these things. Again, I say a lot of this not to negate or discount anything that's out there. This isn't about what you feel, what you don't feel. This is about let's keep it simple. And like if we remove all that, let's just sweep it aside.
Hmm.
Are you a human? And am I a human? Do you bleed? Do I bleed? Do you feel emotion? Do I feel emotion? Do we cry? Do we have pain? Do we love? Like that's what it's all about. Let's get
Right.
to know that, hey, we're exactly the same because we're human. Then let's start adding our stuff on there. Hey, this is what I go by. This is my name. This is what I'm into. Like, let's get to know each other.
Hmm.
I sometimes think when you lead with this whole resume, it's like, well, I can't even ask you a question now. What am I going to get to know? You put it
Right.
all out there.
Yeah.
And you also already realize, like, I guess we're not going to be able to differ in opinions because you're just like, here's my stance.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. Yesterday, Barack Obama wrote a letter commending the librarians because we're canceling and erasing books. What's the book? There's a book. I think it's Fahrenheit
Oh, 451.
451,
Yeah.
where they're burning books and disappearing. Like
Hmm.
we're starting to erase our past because we're ashamed of it.
Yeah.
But how are we going to ever learn and evolve if it's erased and then now let's just say today is our new floor and then we make the mistake again, we didn't realize we had made that mistake already.
Hmm.
So I think we should look at it to honor where we've come from, how we've evolved as humans and move forward, but also this country's based on freedom of speech, on
Yeah.
differing opinions. There's a million and one religions in the world. Your religion's cool, mine's cool, awesome. We ultimately, what's religion saying? Be a good human.
Hmm.
God, Allah. Is it the same person? It's a higher being. I'm not, this isn't about theology or anything, but I'm just distilling it down. It's like, it's love and fear.
Yeah.
So if we use that as our guiding light, I think we could be in a better place and we can
Hmm.
operate better and we can accept each other quicker or even at all. Sometimes you're like, oh, you're a Democrat. Oh, yeah, I can't hang out with you. Oh, you're Republican. Oh, you're a racist. I'm
Right.
just like,
Yep. All the time. Yeah.
and it's not, there's so much more to all of that.
Hmm.
So that's why it's love. It's
Yeah.
love. It's not Valentine's Day. It's not rom-coms. It's not Hallmark movies. It's not roses and chocolates. We're not talking about acts of love. What I'm talking about is choosing love, doing the hard work, taking action, coming from your heart. That's not easy. And I also think at some point it's been branded in this foo-fooey space of like it's either soft or it's only for a romantic gesture, but it's not. It's standing up on stage, being vulnerable and speaking your truth and coming from love to move someone is much different than the opposite,
Hmm.
whatever that could look like, faking it or making someone feel good because you know it's going to make them feel good, but not necessarily the feedback or the lesson or, hey, I love you so much. Can I give you some feedback?
Hmm. Yeah. I
You
completely
know?
agree. Yeah. And this is a very powerful message because, like you said, everything is overcomplicated these days. We don't go back to the simplicity. And we live in a society now where there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of division, there's a lot of consequences for different things. And I believe that it all starts with us as individuals. We can make a change no matter what we believe. Like, oh, I'm just one person. My vote or my post or my podcast won't matter, but it does add up if you do it properly. So, with this in mind of choosing love, choosing the hard things for the right reasons, how can we show up better as people to make our lives better, but also society as a whole better?
It's going to start with yourself. Get up, look in the mirror, and just, I say it, and like I get up every day, I look in the mirror and I choose love,
Hmm.
and it's also say, Ruben, I love you. But I think, okay, the negativity and the all that kind of spinning of things, all of a sudden it's becoming like, oh, you narcissist. And like it has nothing to do with that
Yeah.
actually, because self-love has nothing to do with narcissism. And selfishness to make yourself better has nothing to do with that either. And it's not coming from ego, it's coming from self-care. And if we start doing that individually to ourselves, guess what? Guess how we start showing up? We show up better for that other person, because the other cases we're not doing this. And in my early 20s, that was a perfect example. I made a lot of money in real estate, and there was gaps in here I didn't know about because I'm in my
Hmm.
early 20s and the world says, hey, you're successful because you have an Escalade with 26-inch rims, you have diamonds on your watch, and you're a baller, and you
Hmm.
got the table at the club.
Yep.
And what did all that do? It just masked all the things that I was insecure, not confident
Mm.
about, and searching for. And it's not because I did or didn't know about it. I didn't know until I lost it all. When you lose it all, you're like, oh, wait, I was using money to X.
Yeah.
Again, nothing wrong with money. I like money. We need money. I like nice things. It's how to use the nice things for you versus, before I needed the car to validate that I was successful in my existence. Now I want the car because I appreciate the car. I love the car. And if I don't have the car, cool. If I
Hmm.
do, cool. But it's a different come from. You can
Yep.
still have the Lambo, but my come from for when I get my Lambo this time, because I would love a Lamborghini Urus, is much different than in my 20s when I wanted the Lambo.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? That was a hard ego flex. This is more, obviously it does show I'm successful, but I want it because I appreciate it as something really nice, the craft behind it. I've also been a car guy my entire life.
Hmm.
So like
Yeah.
certain sneakers, I love the Grail sneakers and like, yo, these are my Travis Scotts, these are
Right.
my unions, these are my, and it's because I appreciate that. I watched the movie Air. I got emotional because
Hmm.
that's the attachment I have on these sneakers. I just love that. It's also, to me, it's a piece of art.
Yeah.
So what's your come from? What's the intention behind it? Do you want the big house because you want to show it off, or do you want the big house because you want your family and all your friends there all the time? Because
Hmm.
you don't want to leave because you're a homebody and would rather entertain and just bring everyone over. And then when they leave, you just go to bed.
Hmm.
Selfishly, that's my wife and I were like, we just want to entertain people in the house. We can
Right.
stop going out, so
Yeah, that's really good. It sounds like with the cars, the shoes, and all that, you're much more self-content with your happiness, your love situation, and also your mission in life, compared to in the 20s. I mean, everyone can fall into this at some level of their life. They want the nice things just because it's something nice, right? They're just chasing it for the wrong reasons. But you now, there's a deeper meaning behind it, and that's such a powerful thing. And I think it all starts with, you said something a little bit ago. You said you wake up and you said, "Ruben, I love you." And I find that a lot of people in life, I might be generalizing, but I think this is pretty accurate, that a lot of people out there, they wouldn't feel comfortable saying that to themselves. Or if they say it, they wouldn't believe it. They wouldn't feel it on the inside that that's actually the truth. Why is it this way? And do you have any advice for someone that isn't comfortable saying that to themselves, how you can start to love yourself more?
So for the second part, how do you love yourself more? There's an exercise I've told people, and I'm not saying I made this up because I've heard other people now say it, and I'm sure it came from somewhere. One thing to realize is humans have been around for a long time. So we do our things, our version, put our twist on it and put it better. Is anything really brand new as far as ideas? But write yourself a love letter. No
Mm,
grammar, no punctuation. Do it for 30 days. 30 days, write it. Even if one day it says, I love you, or one day is, I love you. I love the way you show up in the world, what you do in the world. I love your abs and your hair, like whatever it is that you
yeah.
need to put on there, and do that and start practicing that to get past your weirdness. I ask people all the time, if I ask you to name three things that you love, what are the first three things that come to mind? So what's your answer, Matt?
I would say the gym, being outside, and spending time with friends.
So then my rebuttal to that is, because there's nothing wrong with your answer, it's like, why weren't you first on that list? Although you
Mm,
did say the gym, and the practice of the gym does lean heavily into self-love, so it's a little closer to that answer, but it should be you. Some
yeah.
people are like, my Benz, my house, my kids, my dog, my car, my this. I'm like, all those things are right, but we somehow forget to insert ourselves into that.
Hmm. You're right. Yeah.
And to answer that first part, the world, I don't have the answers, but what I do know from what I experience, and everything comes from my experiences with dealing with people my whole life and just myself, is we sell things by tapping into fear, right?
Mm,
You're fat and insecure. Freeze the fat, get some breast lifts, get a fake butt, do the diet pill, cool sculpt, whatever it is. They give us all the easy ways to get out of it. I think the other thing is, not only are they attacking our insecurities and our ego, is we're just lazy
yeah.
as a whole. And I think we're getting lazier. And I mean, I speak to myself too. I'm not saying I'm not lazy. When we're allowed to have our lazy days, but we don't want to do the work, and we want the shortcut. We want the pill. What's the
Hmm.
quickest pill to get to the point? Even now, you see it in so much plastic surgery, for example. If you suck it out of here, but you change nothing, you still don't go to the gym, you still eat the same, dude, all of a sudden your face is like this big, because these fat cells are gone, so it goes
Right.
somewhere. You have, like, it's going to go somewhere else. Just because you suck it out doesn't mean it disappears. So if you deal with a problem or tuck it away, eventually it's going to come back, until you really deal with it. So
Mm,
go to the gym, change the way you eat. You drop the weight and it still has a little something something there that you want to get rid of, then go get that. No,
yeah.
nothing against plastic surgery, go for it. But that's not the answer. You're skipping steps in the journey.
Yep. Yeah. There's many people out there that they want the shortcut, they want the short-term gratification. How have you avoided this in your life? Because you went from just making some sketches, and then now you make your first mural, to now doing things at a much larger scale and showing people across the world how talented you are. If you were to, let's say, take days off of your practice, or and try to go back to real estate when you're in your art career, different ways of distraction, how would that impact you? Because you seem all in on your purpose and mission right now.
I mean, I'm all in. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I mean, my son's middle name is Love.
That's awesome.
Um, Remy Love. So this is bigger than me. This is the
Mm-hmm.
way I express it and put it in the world. And I think this is part of the reason to help with this success is that I'm in service. I'm being in service. You know, I put up a mural and the message on it. I needed to see it, but so did somebody else, and they
Yeah.
experience it their way. So realizing that I'm talking to myself, but also connecting with somebody else on that level as we're mirrors of each other. I think that's an important thing. There's lots of distractions in life, and dude, trust me, I fuck off days often because you know we burn out,
Right. Yeah.
and I lay on the couch. Also, we can also just say that's part of the process,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why am I judging myself saying right now I'm watching a documentary when I should be doing something else that's quote unquote work? But maybe watching that documentary on this musician inspires me to do something else.
Yeah.
And then that's also the truth. Like we learn from all the things we're doing. So I think it's how we frame it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Where do you get most of your ideas from? Your inspiration for art?
It's in my head.
Yeah.
It's all in my head. Most of the time, my problem is putting it down into like life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't go to school for this for me to try to bang around on Photoshop. Now I'm way better. But when I first started, there's stuff in my head. Like, how do I get it down there so I
Mm-hmm.
can evolve it? You know, I'm
Yeah.
working on creating these shoes right now. So it's like it's in my head. We've got some sketches and stuff, and partner with a buddy who works in the shoe world. Like, let's bring these designs to life. So it's also collaborating with other people, realizing you cannot do it alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's there's a lot of connections to business here because you draw the inspiration for your art from your mind, and a lot of people get business ideas to start a business in their mind from hearing something, seeing something, or maybe it just comes to them, and then they collaborate with people to start a business. What have you learned from the business aspect about success and scaling a business from your art career?
Mm. I have a universal message, and I think I would say part of it is look at the entire package of what you're offering, right? Because if you ask 10 people, describe an artist for me, what are they going to say? Usually it's like the dark kid in the corner, the emo kid, someone
Right.
on drugs, someone not successful, right? The starving artist. Usually it's not someone fit and athletic like me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you played college football and competed in CrossFit and you still run all this? I'm like, yeah, like that's not your typical also
Mm-hmm.
artist, right?
And
Usually
podcasting.
yeah, all of it. Usually a little out of shape or whatever the case is. Um, do we fit into those stereotypes? Are we accepting that? And I think just realize what is the total package? What are you putting out in the world? And is your mission bigger than you? In my case, I started with murals. I'm like, well, what's next? Oh, art. Let me go to canvases. Oh, what's next? For the longest time, I didn't know what a print was. I was like, dude, you should do prints. Prints are
Mm-hmm.
like a cool way to get more out to people that can afford it. It's not just an original. I'm like, okay, so I looked into that. Now we offer prints. And in there, I've always thought about what can I do that's off the wall? Like, how do I make these into sculptures? What do I make it real? And eventually we started creating sculptures. And how do you make more art that's more attainable to the masses? Oh, put my art on a t-shirt. Now people can wear
Mm-hmm.
the t-shirt, the hats. Then I put it on cars and I put it on tequila. The show is now another example of like, wait, I can express myself in an entirely new medium and highlight people showing up through love. I've got poetry. I mean, I mess around with spoken word and rap sometimes, and I'm like, I actually question myself, like, oh, I can also do that. So I think it's also not sticking ourselves to one little thing. We
Mm-hmm.
as an overall creator, are you a creator? And where do you want to create in? What's the art you want to create in?
Mm-hmm.
No, chefs are artists. A lot of us are creators and artists. We all humans create. It's how you, I think, express it and judge it. But I think it's all of that. It's my work ethic. It's
Yeah.
I've been an athlete my whole life. I'm not discounting that athlete mentality and that athlete mindset. You put in the work all week, game time, and then you win,
Mm-hmm.
right? You put in the work all year. The entire life is game. The end of the game is death.
Right.
So are you constantly playing the game, or are you being a spectator and just watching on the sidelines? Like, it's your life.
That's powerful. You mentioned fitness, and obviously you still stay in shape today. What are some other habits you do, or if you want to expand more on fitness, that help you show up as a better person, as an artist today?
I train 5 days a week. It
Awesome.
is, unless I'm traveling, and even when I travel, I figure it out. But it's part of me.
Hmm.
It's how I clear my mind. I walk there, I lift, I come home. Part of it is I want to, you know, we're all a little vain. We want to preserve our youth as much as
Yeah.
possible. But I've fallen in love with fitness in the sense of what it does for me and how it challenges me. It applies when I'm painting a mural. I can last longer out there because I'm stronger.
Hmm.
But also the true motivation is I want to play with my grandkids.
Yeah.
I want to, when I am 75 or 80, and keep doing this, right? Can I be painting a mural at that age? I don't know. That might be cool. Who's the oldest muralist ever to paint a mural? But it's like run up the pyramids when we travel, all these things. Zombie apocalypse, if it ever comes, I'm not trying to get eaten first. So a lot of that is really just survival, and we feel
Right.
better. It just does stuff to challenge us and everything else. It's part of that. So fitness is all of that. I mean, I like having abs, but that's
Hmm.
also a byproduct. I don't train just for that. If I did, I'd be miserable. It'd be a whole nother, again, in my early 20s, I did more fitness model training, and you diet and you try to get super lean, and then it makes you weak. And that's a miserable existence unless you're getting paid a ton of money. But if I'm not, like, what's the point of being that for
Hmm.
whatever reason? So it's
Hmm.
not for that reason. Everything is a happy byproduct, but the long term is because I want to live to 125. I'm going to do everything in my power to try to get to that
That's
without
awesome.
sacrificing. Like, I still drink and play around in life, but that's what we're made for. We're made to move.
Hmm. Absolutely. I agree. And it's obviously been working very well for you. You have beautiful art, and you've also done it at a very high level. You've been working with BMW and NFL, correct? What was that experience like?
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I grew up in BMWs, so to me, I love that brand. I love those cars, and to be able to, I did three, and then I drove. They gave me one for a couple years, a X5 fully loaded, and
Nice.
that's my one of my favorite ones. I want to get the XM right now, so I'm working that out. But it just felt real. They're like, hey, do you want to do this? Like, let's do the campaign, like driven by love, the
Hmm.
ultimate driving
Hmm.
machine. Love is the ultimate source. Not discounting God, so don't take the words out of it. But like, love is God, God is love. So that was just amazing. It's gonna be one day more like inside. Imagine instead of the word wood or the carbon fiber, it's like the little loves or the perforated
Nice.
letter has the design. But the pandemic kind of changed some things. But I'm still throwing it out there, BMW, with somebody else in there or some other car company, Lamborghini. There's a
Hmm.
few others, but I love that. Whenever it's something that I truly love, it feels real, it feels authentic. It's not work. I'm like, I have no problem talking about this brand because I also love it. And then the
Yeah.
NFL, I mean, when that came in, ex-football player, to me, that was like, wow,
Yeah. That's really cool.
like, yo, like I probably shed a few tears. Like, I did shed some tears, and I
Yeah.
definitely shed tears at kickoff last year because I was there. The entire 60-second spot that opened the 2022 NFL season
Hmm.
was filmed in this studio. I was painting a thing here. There was kids out
Wow.
in front of my murals, and it was Sterling K. Brown narrating it. Like, dude.
That's
And then I
special.
played college ball, so to me, it's like, yo, I made it to the league.
Yeah. There you
Some of my
go.
friends I played with, they're like, yo, like, I'm not on the field, but like I made it to the league. And
Right.
I love that game. So to me, it was another thing that I love athletics. I love sports. I love the NFL, and it's something that brings them value too, right?
Hmm.
There's still negativity around that with treatment of women or how some of these guys are showing up in the world. So if we could continue to amplify the opportunity to choose love, you see it on their helmets,
Hmm. Yeah.
choose love every single day. it's going to change the world one person at a time. So
Hmm.
that's a whole nother dream come true. We've got more happening. I'm actually wearing, I'm not going to turn it around, but this is one of the prototype hats that are coming out. We're doing
Awesome.
5 different teams. Comes out Q1 next year to continue that program and that campaign and keep going. So yeah, it just felt right, and
Hmm.
it was awesome.
It's
It's just
awesome.
a definite highlight.
Yeah, looking forward to so much more. I'm so happy for all of that achievement, all that success, and showing, what is possible from following your passion and truly making something happen. And through all the hard work that you've had and all the success you've achieved. And speaking of success, like we said before we started recording here today, everybody views success differently. How do you define the word success?
Well, I know how I used to. And how I used to was how much money was in my bank account, how big was my house, what car did I drive, and how did I dress. Um, I think success is completely different now because those things I just said, again, we like them, they're nice. They should be happy accessories and byproducts.
Hmm.
To me, success now is having a good relationship with my wife, my son, being present, having the flexibility to, I end work at 6, almost all the time, unless I'm on project or whatever, and I don't
Hmm.
work on the weekends because that's just family time. Even if we just lay there all day, I'm doing not much. But I have to do these things because if we go, and my son's 12 and playing ball one day and I can't make it to the game because I haven't built my life around this. So now I'm trying to really build it in that way. So to me, success is just being happy every day. Well, as often as possible. There's non-happy days, but um, not dreading, not how I felt, 5 years into finance, not having that dread. I don't want to get up.
Hmm.
And not to discount, I still have low days and dark days. Like depression isn't a thing that just disappears all of a sudden. I go up and down like a roller coaster, but I'm so focused on a mission. Success to me is also just what are you focused on? What is your mission? What is your vision? What is your purpose? And if you're living your purpose, all these other things, the ups, downs, lefts, right, are going to happen, but you have that star that's guiding you forward. So I hope everyone can find that. And that could be being the financial advisor that I used to be, or the
Hmm.
real estate agent, or the personal trainer, or the amazing parent. Like, it doesn't have to be being the president of the United States. I think we also start getting lost in that. And then that goes back to the first version of what I thought success was.
Hmm.
But ultimately, what it comes down to, like, I don't want to worry about the bank account also.
Yeah.
That's part of it. There's not a money amount in there. It's just enough that I don't worry about it.
Hmm.
If you could get to that point, let's just not worry and be grateful in what we have and having enough. That also helps too. Like I
Yeah.
travel the world now more than when I had a boatload in my 20s because in my 20s I was too focused on making more. I had to
Hmm.
have more. I needed
Hmm.
another check. So
Yeah, it's a very real answer. I appreciate that. And before I get to my last question, I want to make sure everyone checks your stuff out after this. Can you plug your Instagram, your podcast, wherever you want people to check you out at?
yeah, everything is basically under my name, Ruben Rojas, Rubenrojas, Instagram, Twitter, Threads now. YouTube is Love Ruben Rojas. The show is Live Through Love with Ruben, so you can still find it. Google my name and everything usually pops up.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah, definitely make sure you check that out. Ruben does amazing, amazing work. Ruben, my last question for you is there's got to be someone listening to this that needs some direction in life. They want to be successful, but they are struggling on how to get there. What is one piece of advice you'd leave that person with?
Today is someday. Like we put everything off, and I know because I'm a king of procrastination. But like someday is not going to come. Today is someday. So
Hmm.
just do something toward going toward that now.
I love that. That's amazing advice right there, and something that we like to preach here. So great message. Really enjoyed having you on. Great story, and love to see everything you've been up to. So, Ruben, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.